Yesterday we were discussing about ecosystem and ecosystem services, in which I have told you about the ecosystem, that what are the factors which are involved in ecosystem. Abiotic and biotic factors, they interact with each other and maintain a balance among themselves, and a healthy ecosystem is developed. So now we are going to know about the ecosystem services. What is ecosystem services? A wide range of conditions and processes through which natural ecosystems and the species that are part of them help sustain and fulfill human life. That is what does it mean? That whatever benefit we are getting, whatever possible benefits we are getting from the ecosystem in a natural form, and for the human society, which is being supplied to the human society by this natural ecosystem, is known as ecosystem services. Now, what are these ecosystem services? There are four types of ecosystem services. That is, from ecosystem, what are the benefits that human can take is that provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services, and supporting services. Provisioning services, as you can see in this picture, that the few workers, they are taking edible vegetables. So from where these vegetables are coming? They are coming from the ecosystem. The plants, and I have told you yesterday that plants are the only producers which can produce their own food, trapping the sunlight in the form of energy, whereas others are known as consumers because they consume these producers and lead their life. Now, what are these provisioning services? This involves food, raw material, fresh water, medicinal resources. These four types of services we can get from this provisioning services. And what is this food? Food is virtually all ecosystems. The whole of the ecosystem, they provide the conditions for growing, collecting, hunting, or harvesting food. In any form, you can take food. In the form of vegetable, you can take, in the form of hunting. For example, if you hunt a deer and take the flesh of it, or a lion hunts the deer for its food, this is all food which is being taken from the ecosystem. And raw material, ecosystems provide a great diversity of materials, including wood, biofuels, and fibers from wild or cultivated plant and animal species. Why we are saying this wild or cultivated? Because forest is the natural ecosystem. Whereas if you harvest cotton from cotton fields, that is cultivated plant. And animal species, you know that they are domestic and wild animals. If we are cattle rearing, that is we are maintaining those animal species, whereas in forest the animals are maintained themselves in natural resources. And fresh water, no life. You all know that there is no life without water. Ecosystems play a vital role in providing the flow and storage of fresh water. Whatever water we are getting, from where, do you think that they are coming directly from the tap? No. From in the tap, where it is coming from? It's coming from some resource, maybe from some lake or river. Medicinal resources, natural ecosystems provide a variety of plants and mushrooms which offer effective cures for many kinds of health problems. They are used in popular and traditional medicine and for developing pharmaceuticals. Anjali Jain, please keep your camera off. So we can see that we get a number of medicines. All the medicines which we are taking for our health issues, they come from this ecosystem, whether in the form of a plant or animal. In both cases, they come from the ecosystem. Provisioning services are ecosystem services that describe the material or energy outputs from ecosystems. They include food, water, and other resources. As I have shown you in my previous slide, food, raw material, medicine, water, this all comes from the ecosystem, and these are the provisioning service. They are providing us the provision for having all this from the ecosystem. In the form of food, ecosystems provide the conditions for growing food. It may be in the form of the crops or vegetables or fruit orchards, or naturally they are coming from forest. Food comes principally from managed agroecosystems, but marine and freshwater systems or forests also provide food for human consumption. As I had told you, that if they are coming from crops, that we are maintaining that, but it is plant which is being developed in the environment, natural environment, in the form of an ecosystem. So these come under the agro ecosystems. But marine and freshwater, what do we get from marine? We get many things. Even we get medicine in the form of some shark or corals or any other vertebrate or invertebrate form. We get medicine also, we get food also. For example, the shrimps and prawns and fishes, they all come from marine in the form of food. And freshwater systems, for example, like any lake, river, these are the freshwater systems from where we can get water as well as food in the form of fish or in the form of any vertebrate or invertebrate. And forest, they also provide us food. How they can provide? There are many fruits which come directly from the forest. For example, tendu. Tendu, it comes from the forest. Tendu leaves, they come from the forest. So there are many other things. Even honey. Honey, we can, most of the honey is collected from the forest. So these are the foods which we can get in the form of natural ecosystem. Wild foods from forest are often underestimated. We still don't know what we are getting from the forest, because we are not taking all of that. Not all of the things are being harvested. And if we cannot even harvest all the things, again we are going to imbalance the equilibrium. So we have to maintain the equilibrium so that the ecosystem is not being disturbed and we are getting these services from the ecosystem. Raw materials, ecosystems provide a great diversity of materials for construction and fuel, including wood, biofuels, and plant oils. We know that we get wood from forest, and biofuels. What are biofuels? If we burn some plant, if we get fuel from it, that is known as biofuels. For example, methane gas, it comes from the gobar gas, which is also known as gobar gas. That is also a byproduct of this plants and animals. Freshwater ecosystems play a vital role in global hydrological cycle as they regulate the flow and purification of water. Vegetation and forest influence the quantity of water available locally. In next slides, I will show that how they are helping us to purify the water or to get the water content, how the water table is being raised in the underground water level. They are helping in many forms. And all this is used as fresh water to our human well-being. Medicinal resources, ecosystems, and biodiversity provide many plants used as traditional medicines, as well as providing the raw materials for pharmaceutical industry. All ecosystems are a potential source of medicinal resources. We get all our medicines from this ecosystem itself. We are not, it is not that we are making all the medicines, we are getting the chemicals in one or the other form of a raw material from these ecosystems. So we can see that there are 5 F's. Pharmaceuticals, when you listen it, we feel that it is starting from F. That is why I have taken this also in this 5 F's: food, feed, fiber, fuel, and pharmaceuticals. These are the 5 provisional benefits which we are getting from the ecosystem. And others like latex, gum, gone, we tell na, gone jisko kehte hain. This also comes, rubber, this comes from the natural resources like plants. Now, I have simplified more that what are the foods which we can get. It is not only this is just a few examples. Animals, we get meat, dairy, blood, honey, eggs, etc. And from plants, we get seeds, fruit, flowers, leaves, stems. And there are others, not only this animal and plant, there are other forms also like fungi and algae, from which also we get food. Spirulina, you know, that is also a form of food which we are taking, and it comes from this other sources. Feed, fodder, and forage. For animals also we need forage and the feed. So from animals we get fish, molasses, meat and bone meal, fecus. That is the residual matter which is taken out from the animals. Plant corn, soybean, oats, barley and others seaweed. This is used as fodder for other animals also. Fiber. Fiber is used for many things, for cloth making or for tire making. There are many resources which we require from the ecosystems, and this comes from animal in the form of collagen, feather, fur, and silk. And from plant we get cotton, hemp, sisal, jute, and bamboo. And from others, from seaweed, we get fiber. And fuel we can get from animals, plants, and others. From animals, dung, as I have told you, gobar gas, fat, it is used as fuel. From plants, biomass, oil, charcoal, and fossil fuels. And microalgae, these also produce fuel. Pharmaceuticals, from animals we can get from the skin gallstones. You all know that sloth bears are killed for their gallstones because the Chinese they make medicine from the gallstones. From gallbladder they take the stones and they make the medicines. So there are many animals from which we can get these gallstones and they are used for the Ayurvedic and allopathic medicines. Venom from snakes and other venomous animals, but they are also working as medicinal value, urine and insulin. Plants diuretic, astringent, febrifuge, and diaphoretic expectorant. For cough and cough, and all we use this plant. Diuretic for the urinal problems, we use this. And others in microalgae and microorganisms, these are very useful. For example, you all know from where penicillin comes. So these are the microorganisms from which we get. And what are the other things? As I had told you, latex, gum, rubber, wax, dye, and other pesticides and remediations. This all comes from the other sources we use as others so resources from these plants and animals. Now, after this provisioning services, there are regulating and supporting services. This is the very important services which we are getting because this is totally for the benefit of human being. Without this, the earth will be finished. Now, what are these regulating services? These are the services that ecosystems provide by acting as regulators. For example, regulating the quality of air and soil or by providing flood and disease control. So in a way, they are actually controlling and maintaining the equilibrium of this biodiversity, the world, the whole universe. This is all being maintained by all the factors of biotic and abiotic. Local climate and air quality. Trees provide shade whilst forests influence rainfall and water availability both locally and regionally. We know that why we are telling that plant a tree, because we know that if plants, trees are there, then only the monsoon will be very good, rainfall will be very good. So what we see that in a farm they are actually maintaining the flow of water, maybe from the ground or from the clouds. This is all being maintained. How? See, this is the example of only one tree. You can see the roots underground and the tree above. So, by the transpiration, all plants they follow the process of transpiration to raise water from roots to the tip of the shoot. And through this transpiration, the water is evaporated, and this water accumulates in the atmosphere to form the clouds. And this small ground covers, for example, the shrubs and small trees and grass. What they do, they actually maintain the flow of water, because whenever there is rainfall, if this cover is not there, what we see that the water will directly flow with speed, and it also takes the top soil also, which is very fertile. That also is being removed. But what these grass and all the small shrubs and herbs are doing, that they are entangled in the soil, they are holding the soil, and they are slowing the runoff of the water. The velocity of the runoff is maintained, or you can say it is slowed down. And the whatever water is falling on the ground by this rainfall, it can be absorbed in the ground surface, because it is getting time for the soil to be absorbed, the water to be absorbed in the soil. Carbon sequestration. We know that all the forests, they are known as sink for carbon dioxide. Why? Because we know that all of the carbon dioxide which is present in the atmosphere is useful for plants, or you can say the trees. How? Because we know that they are doing the process of photosynthesis. And in the process of photosynthesis, they take carbon dioxide and release oxygen. And again, you all know that this oxygen is our lifesaver. Without this oxygen, there's no life. So if we want to live happily, we have to have enough of the oxygen. So whatever oxygen is coming, it is produced by the trees. So we can say that we cannot make oxygen. You know, we can make food for ourselves, we can cook food for ourselves, but we cannot make oxygen. The oxygen comes directly from the trees, green plants, whichever plant which is having chlorophyll, the green pigment. So in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide and the chlorophyll, these trees and plants, they photosynthesize and produce oxygen. So whatever carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere, it is being circulated and it is being used by the trees, and the level is maintained so that oxygen is released. So this is known as carbon sequestration. The biodiversity also plays an important role by improving the capacity of ecosystems to adapt to effects of climate change. Now we are saying that the climate is changing. Why the climate is changing? Because we are facing the forests are being damaged. We are cutting trees. We are cutting off the forest for what? For urbanization. So and the industrialization. So what we are seeing that the number of trees, they are becoming less, and because of that there is imbalance. And now we have been aware, we have become aware, and we are celebrating this Environment Day, Ozone Depletion Day, and Global Warming Day, and all that is because now we have come to know that only trees can save our lives, and that is why we are telling each and every person to plant a tree. Now, the extreme events. What are the extreme events? It can be, these are the natural hazards, which off and on we keep on listening that there is a hazard of a cyclone. Recently, you know that there was cyclone in the coastal regions of Bengal, Orissa. So what we see, who is this Pawan Nagar? Please switch off your camera. Extreme, what are the natural hazards? These include the floods, storms, tsunamis, avalanches, and landslides. And who can save from all this? The trees and plants, the forests, ecosystems, and the living organisms create buffers against natural disaster, thereby preventing possible damage. How, for example, you can see this in the coastal region, there are mangroves. And what we are seeing slowly, the mangroves are declining in the, or we can say decreasing in the coastal regions, due to which we had faced this tsunami. You all remember the tsunami, what damage it has done in Tamil Nadu. That all the things, each and every building near the coastal area was washed away from this tsunami. And if these coastal regions were protected by mangrove, definitely it would have been slowed down. But because of this decline of mangroves, we are facing all these cyclones and tsunamis. and even landslides. Landslides, what we see on the forest areas, hilly regions. Hilly regions we see, if the hilly region, the side of the hilly region is blank, then definitely the soil on the top of the hill will be run off by the floods, or you can say rainfall, heavy rainfall, or cloud burst. And whereas if there are trees over there, they keep hold of the soil. They trap the soil and keep hold of the soil so that landslides can be slowed down or it can be reduced. Now, for example, you can see this. This is the forest area, which in this picture you can see. Now, the closed canopy. What is canopy? It is the top of the trees, which we can see from the top. So these, if the trees are very close to each other, whenever there is a rainfall, we see for a tree, we search for a tree that अगर कहीं पेड़ है तो जल्दी से पेड़ के नीचे खड़े हो जाते हैं. So what we see, there is a few raindrops will fall on you. So that means this canopy, it will slow down the process of this rainwater which is falling on it, so that it can be, the water can be absorbed slowly in the soil, and that water table can be increased in the ground level. And if there are no trees, what we see, that the water will flow directly to some other source, from one area to the other source, and that land will be barren, and there will be no absorption of water, due to which the water table will be very less. And we say that this is the dark zone. Why it is dark zone? Because the water could not be absorbed. So what we have to do, we have to plant trees so that the plants can absorb the water in the ground, and the soil which is being entrapped by the roots, they keep hold of the soil, and the water table can be increased. Now, wastewater treatment. This is also being done by the plants. Ecosystems such as wetland filter both human and animal waste and act as a natural buffer to the surrounding environment. Through the biological activity of microorganisms in the soil, most waste is broken down, thereby pathogens are eliminated and the level of nutrients and pollution is reduced. What do you understand by this? That there are pathogens, there are microorganisms, and you know the leguminous trees, what they do, the roots of the leguminous tree, they entrap the nitrogen cycle, the nitrogen fixation is done by them. So in this example, what I have shown here, phytoremediation. What is this phytoremediation? Phytoremediation is the use of green plants to remove contaminants from contaminated sources such as soil, water, air, and sediments. So what is this phytoremediation? This is actually the bioremediation process that uses various types of plants to remove or transfer or stabilize the area, to remove the soil contamination or water contamination, and to remove the pollutants so that it can be pollution free. And these are known as the phytoextraction, phytostabilization, phytodegradation, phytostimulation, and phytodegradation. You can see I am going to give this as an homework to you all, that you have to mention, you have to make a list of the plants which are helping in phytoextraction, phytostabilization, phytodegradation, and phytostimulation. And next is phytovolatilization. I want you all to write that what is this. For example, I will tell of this rhizofiltration. There are certain plants that releases natural substances through its root. As I have told you, the leguminous plants, what they do, the nodules of it, they trap the nitrogen. And only plants, we all know that only plants can trap the nitrogen. And in the whole of the atmosphere, the maximum quantity is of nitrogen. But it is not of any use until and unless these plants will convert this free nitrogen into nitrates. And in the form of nitrates, the plants can take this nitrogen. So the plants releases natural substances through its roots. supplying nutrients to microorganisms. And these microorganisms in turn will enhance the soil fertility. So what we see that they are interacting with one another. One thing is done by a plant and the other thing is being helped. For example, the plants, their leguminous nodules are converting this free nitrogen into nitrates. And these nitrates are being used by the microorganisms as well as the plants. Then these microorganisms in turn will enhance, because decomposition is also an important factor. Without decomposition, the equilibrium cannot be maintained. That is why yesterday I have told you that producers, consumers, and decomposers. These are the biotic factors. Without decomposers or the scavengers, the dead organisms or the dead organic matter cannot be converted into the simple form so that it can be recycled and again being used by the plants and animals. So now your homework is that you have to mention at least minimum 5 plants for each of the phytoremediation: phytovolatilization, phytostabilization, phytoextraction. All these 5 types of phytoremediation, I want you all to write the examples.